Okay, so today we have with us the amazing, incredible, handsome, talented mark-penney. And you'll have to forgive me because I mean, this is like a casual thing. Got my drinks and I'm like ready to hang out. It's nighttime, my kids are in bed. But Mark is quite literally on the other side of the world. And before you jump in, I want to keep talking about how great you are before you talk about not that. um, Mark is the smartest person I know when it comes to email deliverability, and so many things that like I probably would do a really poor job explaining it. But suffice to say, he's amazing, he's brilliant, and thanks for coming.
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction there, Jade. I
Yeah.
don't know quite what to say.
Right? Yeah.
That's
So I did it
fantastic.
for you.
Yeah,
We'll start
awesome.
easy. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just some like a couple personal details so we get a vibe of where you are in the world.
Okay, so yeah, as Jade said, I'm Mark. I live in Australia, which is, if you believe in the globe, is in the southern hemisphere. If you believe in the flat Earth, maybe it doesn't exist. I don't know. I'm still waiting for my checks from NASA. But yeah, but I'm a Kiwi, which means I'm a New Zealander. Not the fruit, more the
Mhm.
more the
Bird.
fluffy you know, that's and it makes this noise. Yeah. So so what you need to know about me is I'm a little random, but
That's why we're friends.
yeah,
We're like two peas.
probably
Odd.
that's probably why we click. Yeah. I own two dogs, a French bulldog and a Staffordshire bull terrier named Lola, which is a cool coincidence.
We're always
um,
complaining and talking about how wonderful our Lolas are.
Indeed. Yeah.
His has four legs, mine has two.
Yep. So yeah, and I've got an IT background, so I've yeah, been doing technology since I don't know, since I was 11 or so, which was, not that long ago. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I had an IT business for a long while, and then decided I didn't want to do sort of pure IT anymore, and I got more into the automation and sort of digital marketing, but not so much the marketing side, more the technology side. And I'm kind of lazy at heart, so I love to automate things so that it's easier for other people and for myself. Yeah, so I've been doing the Infusionsoft Keep sort of automation stuff for a while, but also email deliverability has been the latest thing that I've dived into. So
And it's intense. Like I had the pleasure of recently hosting a Monkey Pod webinar with Greg Jenkins, and you and Adrian
I've got
Savage were the
Jenkins.
guests to talk about email deliverability. And it was all like so amazing. And what struck me about it was that like some of it was like super common sense, like, oh, don't email people who don't open your emails. And some of it was like super super techy. You're like, oh, it's the DMARC and the SPF records, and I'm like, okay, yep.
Yep.
I don't even
Yep.
know what any of that means. So like more specifically, what are you awesome at? Like, what do people pay you to do for them?
Um, how do I answer that at the philosophical level, or do I answer that at the detail level? I don't know.
Not geeky, on the not geek level.
On the not geeky. So
Assume
I
people
guess,
watching don't know what that means.
yeah. So I guess, look, my superpower is probably the fact that I am a technology person, but I'm not a backroom technology person. So I'm a people person. I love small business. I love how marrying ideas of running small business and sales and marketing and just getting things done and whatever processes and systems, marrying that with technology to make life easier for small businesses. I've always loved the fact that technology can make life easier for small business owners. So I guess that's probably been one of my main things, is that having a technical background and a technical brain, if you like, I am good at marrying those sort of two worlds together for people. So if you're coming from a small business world and you've got specific issues with trying to work out the email deliverability of your your business and getting into clients, reaching the client's inbox. But, you understand some of the marketing techniques, but you don't understand what's going on technology wise. I can help sort of bridge that gap.
Do people usually approach you when they have a problem? Like, oh my gosh, I have this amazing stuff and no one's opening my emails, or are you a front end, like, oh, I can help you automate, make your life great? Or do people like call you when they're freaking out?
Yeah, a little column A and a little column B. So one of the reasons I got out of the IT business was it became very reactionary in the sense of, and that was partly because I think I was getting a little burnt out from it, but it was, so driven by problems and issues and new things, and not, forward planning and investing and, making the business run better through technology, that I got away from that. So definitely I'm very good under pressure when it comes to, solving a difficult problem, or a client's, hair's on fire and they've got a launch happening tomorrow and their website's down, or, not that that's necessarily something I offer as a service, but I have helped people out with those sort of situations. So there's definitely that part, but I prefer to be a little bit more proactive around some of the stuff, especially around email deliverability, or anything to do with your automation. It's like planning out, where's my business going? What's, where is that station that we want to get to next? We're at station A, we want to get to station B. The tracks, we don't know. We've got to build the tracks to get there, and they might change direction here and there, but let's plan that. At least we're going in the right direction. So yeah, I do prefer to do more proactive stuff and make sure that people understand, because running a small business in modern day is like, you have to understand technology. You just have to be involved with technology more than you ever were, and that gives you great advantage.
You have to have it, and then maybe know enough to get away with it. So that's actually so. And the point of this interview is like, we're gonna like talk about fun, like inspirational stuff, but like one thing I want to say about like me being on the outside of what you do. I mean, yeah, we share an industry in general, but like I don't know anything about deliverability. And one thing that always shocks me is that the small business owners, at least the ones that I work with in my consulting business, is that, they're good at what they do. And then the technology is a necessity, kind of like what we were just talking about. And then at the low end of priority, I mean, most people that I meet don't even know that they need to authenticate their domain. And that's like, I don't know, like the bare minimum, like, take your Keep app out of the box and the first thing you should do. And I bet most of the people watching this don't even know what that means, because they're like, oh, I love what I do. And okay, fine. I have technology and I have a CRM. And so I guess like my question to you is that like, what do you think people who don't know anything about like IT or technology, or even like people outside of our, our Keep space, our Keep community, is like, what's the bare minimum? What do you need to know? Because I didn't even know it.
for the email deliverability specifically. Yeah, like, so I work on what I call the reach formula. So the one we do sometimes is race. It's just one letter different, but they're essentially the same thing. So it's a battle between my mate Adrian and I. Work with him, and he's race and I'm reach, and I like reaching the inbox. He likes racing the inbox. So it's just this. He's in the UK, so it's this battle of the the Aussie Kiwi Aussie versus the POM. So the reach stands for reputation. So your reputation of your domain, specifically, if we're being, so for me, it would be, meppy.com. For you, it would be, is it jdolivia.co or whatever? Yep. So the E stands for engagement. And that's probably one of the biggest things that people have had to start focusing on in the last year to 2 years. I've always trumpeted it for the last 4 years or 5 years, just because I've got a background, and I used to build email servers. I used to actually build the systems that block spam and block emails and do things like that. So I actually was on the other side of the fence to some degree.
That's so funny.
But I also had clients who were saying, "Oh, my email's not getting through. Why is that?" And so I understood the flow
because of you.
Or because of someone like me who works for the other company who's blocking that email, because whatever.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And as spam has kind of grown over the years, and it's spam is most of the email on the internet is spam. So you can imagine all the providers are doing what they can to, block the email that people don't want to get. So engagement management is probably the most important thing you can do overall, long term, and you've got to do it consistently and continuously. And that's really just checking, are they opening my emails? Are they clicking on and reading my emails? And if they're not, eventually you need to stop sending to them. And you need to bring new people in. Simple as that.
That's where people miss. People will just have their list and they'll just constantly send to the whole list, and that's the big piece, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's the old school way of thinking where you are thinking, oh, look, I've got this list, it's worth this much to me because I spent, this much on advertising. I'm just going to smash it and smash it and smash it and get that 1 or 2%. And that used to work, but now it's counterproductive because you'll start getting blocked. You'll start having problems reaching even the new people because your reputation, your engagement's not being managed. Therefore, your reputation's been impacted. So reputation's probably the key thing. And then these other things all feed into your reputation. So, and then A is authentication. So that's probably the foundation. That's something that whenever you set up a new online business and you're doing email marketing, you should set up your authentication and get that working. That should always be something that you just do. Because you could do everything else right with engagement, content, and all the other things we can talk about, but authentication is that thing that if you don't have that right, it just can mess up everything.
How would you explain that to a first grader? What is authentication?
So authentication is just saying, hey, I own this domain and I'm allowed to send this email, and this is really who I am, and it's not someone else pretending to be me.
I see so many people not even doing that.
Yeah. And if you've got a small list and you're doing just a little bit of online email marketing, then you can get away with that because you're relying on the reputation of your CRM or your third-party mail service. But as you grow and scale, that's going to start being a problem because you're not in control of your own destiny as far as my reputation or your reputation for sending those emails. So, and it's just one of those basic things you need to get set up right from the word go. And it's complicated and it's technical, and you can figure it out how to do it yourself, but it's risky because you can stuff it up and mean that you don't get any emails delivered, or you make the situation worse. And
I've called you crying in the middle of the night for me, knowing it's like afternoon for you. I'm like, I can't get these CNAME records to stick, and I don't even know what that means. And you're like,
what is the CNAME record?
You're like, I got you, boo. I got this.
So ideally, I'd prefer to help people with it before it reaches that stage. But we have those as well. We have that situation where people will do it themselves.
I've been on damage control before, and then when I can't control the damage and I need to call an expert to control the damage, I call
Yeah. So it's called knowing enough to be dangerous, I think.
That's me. Yeah. REA.
Yeah, so that's authentication. And then C is content. So, what's your subject line? What's in the email? How's it formatted? How many images do you have? How many links have you got? Where are the links going to? What's the reputation of those sites that you're linking to? All those sort of things are all a factor in whether you're going to reach the inbox.
Always changing too. I mean, the recommendations of what you're supposed to be doing, I can't keep up. So
there's some basics. Content's probably the lowest it depends. There are exceptions, of course, to any of these things, and these are all sort of just rules that you then test and work out what works best for your particular business. But content is probably the lowest impact. So therefore, that's one of the ones you might look at a little bit last, unless you're doing something really spammy or really obvious, like free Viagra tablets in the subject line, and
exclamation point.
Yeah, and then you're linking off to a site that downloads spyware onto the computer. I mean, you're going to unless you're giving away free Viagra.
I only do that on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but if you are giving away free Viagra, then I can help you get those emails in the inbox. But
call mark.com.
No, don't call me, because there are just some things that are just too hard. So
No, go on.
yeah, I was just going to say, I wasn't going to say that was meant to be, there was no pun intended, but I did realize
Amazing.
after I said
Amazing.
it.
Cool.
So content, so yeah, and that can include even whether the email's centered or left aligned, or how many bolds and italics you've got in your email, things like that. Those can all impact your deliverability, depending on your original reputation. So that's something to think about, and that can be a conflict between what you need, and the same with engagement. You get this conflict between what the business wants to do and needs to do to sell its products and services and promote itself, versus what the email services care about and what they are going to allow through and what they're not going to allow through. So there can be a conflict between those two things, and that's where you have to find what's a nice balance, because email is not a guaranteed service. You're never going to get 100% email deliverability. It's just not possible. Just the way it is. It's just a fact. You have to accept that. I know.
That's so sad. Okay, that's the low point of the interview.
But the good thing about that is that we can help increase that. So, you might have, maybe you're only getting 10% opens or something, we might be able to get that up to 30 or 40% or higher, and consistently improve the click-throughs, and it's all about your return. For a business, it's about return on investment and about conversions, not necessarily about, how many opens I'm getting compared to my neighbor up the road who's got a similar business. It's like, how many opens am I getting, and how many of those are converting? So, and are they good, are they good contacts? And so the final is H, which is the one that Adrian leaves off, which is hygiene or health of your list. So that kind of comes down to, no, I like to leave it in there, because it's about, how are people getting on your list? And then how are you making sure that you remove any dodgy emails? Are they lots of Russian ones that are just bots, or are they lots of, and sorry if you've got a Russian business or whatever, obviously they won't be Russian bots, but that is unfortunately what happens, is you get bots with certain email addresses from certain parts of the world that are dodgy, and there's all sorts of reasons they do that. Some of them don't necessarily make sense. It's like, why are they even bothering? What are they gaining out of it? Sometimes that's too hard of a question to answer. That we just know it happens. So, and some, one day you could be fine, and then the next day suddenly you get hit by a whole lot of people opting into your website, and your list gets filled up with this either fake emails, or worse, they can be real emails, and therefore you start sending to people that didn't opt in, and that can hurt your reputation. So, making sure you're managing your opt-ins as well as keeping your list clean over time. So yeah, so that's Reach.
Oh,
Reach.
that was like a super awesome list of totally logical things that almost nobody does.
Well, that's everything. That's everything compacted down into a little
Yeah.
That's the if we're in a building that goes up to 85 floors, that's the elevator pitch on the 85 floor building that everybody's getting off on a floor. So we've got time.
Well, fear not. We're gonna get less geeky now, because
Good.
my greater point, and that was super awesome, by the way. Thank you. But
That's
what I really want to know, and I have a really bad memory, so like we had, we became friends a long time ago, so it's like this is going to be new to me again. Is, what was your breaking point into entrepreneurship? Because you've been doing this for a while. My only fun fact from Mark Penny back in the day was that he was the youngest helicopter pilot in Australia or New Zealand ever. In the world, in the flat earth.
Yeah.
Super, you're like a totally random, eclectic, awesome person. Like, what was the point when you were like, I'm doing this and I'm gonna work for myself now? Bam.
19. No, not 19. That gives away how old I am.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, no, I was just going to give you a date, and then so there's my answer, and that's it. But that joke just didn't come to me in time. So I've always liked small business. Like, my parents ran a small business. As you mentioned, I was the first person in New Zealand to get the helicopter license at the minimum age, which was 17. So I started flying when I was 15 and went solo at 16, and then got my license at 17. So I was the first person to do that in New Zealand. I don't know if somebody in Australia did it before me, possibly just because of the population here is bigger. But so yeah, so that was kind of cool. My mum was also she was the first licensed woman helicopter pilot in New Zealand. So, and first commercial woman helicopter pilot, and first instructor, and first A category instructor in New Zealand for a woman. So I grew up in quite a different.
Awesome, Mark.
Yeah, I grew up in a different kind of world, but we had a flying school. So my parents, started a flying school business, and they taught people to fly, mostly helicopters, but then helicopters and airplanes later on, because she flew both. So she was pretty cool, crazy mum. She's still around. She's 80, but she's still around. So I've always been into kind of doing my own thing in the small, not so much the corporate world. I never got introduced to the corporate world that much. I went to uni. I was going to be a physicist.
What does that mean to Americans?
Oh, sorry. I went to college.
College. Okay.
Yeah. So university, college is high school in New Zealand. So I went to college when I was a kid, and then I went to uni, which was college in America. So that's just for anyone who's confused about that isn't Jade. And then I sort of I lost my way a little bit with the science side, which is sad. I wish I'd finished my science degree, but I didn't. But I did part of a computer science degree and part of a physics degree, and then went off and worked in the computer world. And I remember I was working for a small business, and I remember how excited I was. I was like, and we went to the seminar. I got dragged along to the seminar with the sales guys from the small business I was working for. And the guy talking everything got me all sort of inspired and excited. And I went back to the sales guys and I was like, hey, we could try this and we could do that. And they were like, you're not part of sales. What are you, this has got nothing to do with you. You go back to your little corner and push your little buttons on your computer.
Oh,
I was like put in my place, and I was full of youthful optimism and, no cynicism or anything in those days. And I just remember thinking, this sucks. Like, what if I had a really good idea and it could help the business? And I think I just thought then, it's like, I really don't want to be working for other people. I think it was partly, entrepreneur is a difficult word for me, because sometimes I feel like, I don't know if I'm more of an entrepreneur or more I just don't like working for someone else. So, but there is I guess I just need to own it. And
well, in my opinion, I feel like entrepreneurs are people at some point are just plain old unemployable. Like once you've
exactly,
you've sparked your own dream, and the idea of working for someone else's dream it just doesn't work anymore.
Yep. So I think shortly after I kind of got pushed out of that job unceremoniously. But mind you, that was the first job I built a trans-Tasman. So between Australia and New Zealand, I built an email service before the internet was set up for the businesses. I set up a dial-up email transfer system between the Sydney office and the Wellington office. So that was one of my first that was my first foray into building email systems. So
wow.
So yeah, so
like 5 years ago.
What's that? Yeah, that was I mean, we had the internet, but I don't know. I can't excuse. I'm pretty old. So, this is back in the early 90s, so I can't really get away with.
Yeah.
So
did you start your own business at that time?
No, so I went and worked with I'm risk averse person, and so I'm a little bit sort of I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. I don't know, one or the other. And so I was risk averse. I wasn't very good at just putting myself out there. So, and I'd only just finished, uni, and it was out of my first job. So I made friends with some people that I can't remember how I got in touch with them. I must try and work that out. I think he knew my uncle or something, I think my uncle was his godfather. And so I knew this guy who ran his own little business, but it was kind of like a collective. And so he just had contractors come in and work with them. What it really turned out is that he was trying to run a dictatorship where he made all the profit or half the profit off our work. So it didn't work out in the long run, but it got me started in the world of contracting and consulting, and being able to have ideas that we could share, and try and create something. And sure, it wasn't my vision running. The Highway Computing was the name of the business, but it wasn't my vision, but I could get on board with it and help with it. And, didn't have to prove myself or work for 10 years and become a manager and then all that sort of stuff. I could take some of my
I
ideas
felt
and
that in my
youthful
heart. You're like, oh, I earned the manager. Oh,
Yeah.
Mm,
So, which, and there's nothing wrong with, earning your way in life, of course. But I just think that, the great thing about small business is that we can do things differently than, corporations and large business, and we can be so much more agile, and we can, react to things faster and better, and and it can be more fun as well. So, it doesn't have to be stuck in the old ways of doing things. And, you can make a living. You don't have to be mega rich, but you can make a living. You can be, you can be wealthy if you want, or you can make enough and have fun and lots of time off. So, I think that really appealed to me. And the lazy side as well probably was like, oh yeah, I'm lazy, so I don't want to work in the corporate world because they'll probably make me work 9 to 5, and sometimes I want to take half a day off here and there, and So
I love that. In my previous life, in my not corporate, but I was on a team that dealt with big corporations regularly, and I mean, to get a call scheduled took forever, and then to get to a decision maker was several calls later of lots of corporate lingo BS. They're like, well, we'll reach out to you at the appropriate time after we've consulted 14 people and have had a couple dozen board meetings, and then maybe after this, and we have our quarterly meeting coming up. And it was to get
I've worked in the corporate world as well, so I do. I do understand.
It was brutal, and I 100% agree. I love, not just for myself, but when I work with other small businesses, I love that we're like, hey, let's do this today. And I think that's part of the excitement, is that I'm very excitable. I'm a dreamer. I love that about entrepreneurs and small businesses. We're like, what are we doing today? Yeah.
The thing I think is important though is, and that's probably can be both a strength and a weakness for small business.
Yeah.
And I think not having good systems in place and not following a process and not having good planning and goal setting, I think those are things that are, a lot of small businesses struggle with. Which is, I'm big on, I love systems. I love having a set way of doing things, not because, and it probably comes from partly my background as a pilot. Like, you have checklists, your life depends on making sure that, and your passengers' lives depend on, making sure that you do things in the right order and you do the right things, and you don't wing it, except when it's acceptable to wing it. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't wing it on the important things. So I think, I like systems, and so that's probably why I like the automation as well, because it means you can be really consistent in your approach without having to spend a lot of time after you build the first system. So automation, I just love it.
I love it too. Although you love it because for its consistency's sake, and I love it for its creativity's sake. But
well, no, I'm both. Don't know. I think that's something I'd struggle with. I never saw myself as creative, but I think I am, because I come up with ideas and I have imagination around what we could do. Someone has got a problem and I come up with a creative solution, or I come up with a creative idea and then, we figure out a way to make it work. So I think that creative can be different. It's not all ukuleles and singing Britney Spears songs.
Guilty. So here's a juicy question.
Yep.
What would you tell yourself now? What would you tell yourself then that now? Like, if you right now could find Mark Penney when you're like, I'm going to quit this job, I'm going to start my own business, what would you tell yourself?
Stop. Don't be stupid. Go back to corporate world.
No, that's the wrong answer.
Earn the $1 million and retire. No. Besides the obvious Apple, Bitcoin, Microsoft shares.
No cheating the stock market or
Look, it's a tricky one. I guess believing in myself and backing myself more. I think entrepreneurs often commonly struggle with feelings of,
I can't nod my head big enough.
Self-doubt, and be careful. don't headbutt the computer off. And depression and just not necessarily believing strongly enough in yourself, or you're not giving yourself as much, you give someone else faith, but you don't necessarily give yourself that same level of faith. You might project that you are, and a bit like social media, everyone looks like they're having their best lives, when actually that's just the bit you put out there. So I'd probably say, I'd probably definitely go back and say, yeah, don't become cynical, when things go bad, because things, when you're doing your own thing and you're carving a different path from the path that's, everyone else is following, then things go wrong, and trees fall down on top of you, and you fall down holes, and you have mountains to climb. And so I think I think probably I would say just keep backing yourself, keep believing it, don't listen to the negative naysayers, so because I think that,
the
and that
ones
little voice
in your own head.
in your head, exactly what I was going to say. Snap. We're always in tune on those things. So and because that's something I think self-development is something that I think most entrepreneurs know that they have to do, but it's not always easy for everybody. So and quite often you can do self-development and get caught up in the moment with everything, but you're not actually realizing that you need to really push some of those things home. So probably that. That's the main thing. And just don't give up hope. Like, you're only young. Doesn't matter if things don't go your way. I think Americans, one of the things I really like about America is that you guys are a lot more.
You like things about America?
Of course I do. I've got a lot of friends over there. Don't be like that. So one of the things I love about the culture and identity of Americans is you're much more accepting of failure, especially in business. It's someone trips up or fails or goes bankrupt, or their business fails and they start a new one, or they might have 10 businesses. It's kind of baked into your identity, and sometimes that can be a bad thing. But I think the problem we have in this part of the world is that failure is seen as this really terrible bad thing that you don't, and I know personally that if we all fail all the time in life, whether it's personal or with how we look after the dogs or kids or just relationships, let alone business. And you're going to have failures, and by failures I mean something doesn't work out the way it's supposed to, right? So I think probably making sure that I realize that it doesn't matter. It's like, so you failed and it isn't you're not where you wanted to be in that moment, but if you just keep going, then the next moment is just around that corner. So probably more that sort of stuff.
One thing I will give to entrepreneurs of any stage, of any age, in any industry is the word hustle. Like, these people, like once I started being around entrepreneurs, I couldn't stop. They were like my favorite people, and I was like constantly trying to be around people smarter and and more energetic than me. Okay, maybe not as energetic as me, but you know what I mean? Like people who are just, like, living their best lives and not going to work and suffering the grind and all that. So, so the hustle is built in, but with that comes a lot of like self-doubt, and you question yourself every day. You wake up and you're like,
Imposter
so
syndrome.
the entire world is on my shoulders, and my business and the people that I serve. And it's hard. It absolutely is. But what I thought was awesome about what you said is that you could tell yourself that 5 years ago when you were young, right, Mark?
Yep.
5 years ago.
Yep.
6 years ago. You could tell that you could tell that to your young entrepreneurial self, and you could tell that to yourself today.
Yeah, well, I constantly do.
Absolutely.
I have to, because shit happens sometimes, and like you
it's
just
hard all the time, and
you're having a good morning, and then something goes wrong with a client in the afternoon, because you're working for the worst boss in the world. You're working for yourself. And you're working for lots of bosses. You're working for your customers. So and I think most entrepreneurs, most business people, that at least the ones I respect and like working with, they really do care about what they're doing and what they're putting out there and their customers. And maybe that's why I'm not super wealthy, because I think if you're a bit of a psychopath and you just don't care as much, then you can just
you're wealthy
do business.
right
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, I've always been. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so
Yeah.
actually, I should get like a little badge that I just put on there and say, "Oh, that's my heart." Yeah,
Coming your way.
yeah. And you could put hashtag. You know, you've got this.
You're doing great.
Yeah, you're
You're
doing great.
great,
That's right.
everybody.
Yeah, you could put
Yep.
that on a little heart. I'll wear it on my sleeve. And
That's what we're looking for, guys.
yeah.
So to end it, I got a couple really
I'll end
easy
it. I'm
questions.
enjoying talking. Can I just keep talking?
Oh yeah, no.
Oh,
Absolutely.
sorry. Yeah, we've got to end it, otherwise everyone will fall asleep.
I know. Yeah, I might fall asleep, and you got work to do because it's the
I'm
middle
thinking about the
of the
people, anyone who's watching this falling asleep. God, that guy with the weird accent does talk a lot, doesn't he?
day.
Yeah. Anyway,
In my phone, you're Mock MOK because that's how you say your name.
Mark. That's how American. Whenever I visit America, and especially the West Coast, which is mostly where I go, I'd say, oh, if they ask for my name, oh, hey, I'm Mark, and they go, oh, hey, Mac or Matt and I'm like, no, Mark. So I have to say it with this exaggerated, long R of Mark.
Yeah, I spell it MOK.
Mark. Okay.
Mark.
Sorry. Yeah. Before we finish.
Okay.
Before you and I get into our normal crazy.
Not related to you talking to your youthful self. This is just for people in general. Do you have a hack or bit of advice that would be beneficial to everyone?
So from a technical thing,
it could be deliverability related, it could be life related, it could be business management related. I mean, I'm something juicy. You're like, oh yeah, this is a gem I want to give to everybody.
Jeez, now I felt put on the spot with this one. Everything was flowing, and then now I'm like,
I know.
So
I specifically didn't tell you the questions ahead of time, so you didn't think too hard.
Yeah. This one I probably should have thought about. No. So okay, here's one. I'll kind of call it, because I was talking about marrying my technical with the business. So and systems, and making sure that you remain flexible, but also can repeat what you do and things. I think having at least an idea of what your technology stack is, and by stack I mean I've got my website and it's hosted here, I've got my email service and this is who it's with, and this is who's responsible for it, and this is where my passwords are. Like at least having an understanding about those things, and what that stack is, and knowing what you do and don't know about how to manage that, and whether it's the best setup and things. So you can then go, okay, I need to get help with this, or I need to be willing to change something if I find that there's a better way of doing something. Because as I said, technology, we all need it. And a lot of people don't have a technology background. They've got very good at what they do. It's the whole E-Myth thing. You have to put on these different hats. Actually, that was the first business book I read. That's probably the book me.
I have it on my counter, like right over here.
I've got a photo of me with
Michael Gerber.
Yeah, and we're the same height. He's tiny. He's tiny. So yeah, so that was probably the book that really got me started. But anyway, I would say make sure that you've got to look at it from a systems perspective. If you're running a business, you can't just leave these things up to, oh, I don't really know, I let someone else take care of that. You got to have that documented and systemized. Like it's kind of a bit of a wishy-washy one, I think, but not really. I think it's just
people literally hire people like you and me because they have no idea what their tech stack is, nor how to handle it. They just know that they bought it in that moment for that temporary, like, oh, this is cool, this looks cool, this looks cool. I speak a lot on shiny object syndrome. That's kind of like my thing, because business owners, I mean, we're marketers and everyone's subjected to marketing all day, every day. I love shopping on Instagram. I probably shouldn't, because Instagram knows what I want.
The Instagram ads are actually very well targeted. They're
so good.
I know people that have had to stop going on Instagram because they just would buy things, especially in the US.
So good.
Their targeting is very good. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. So my point though is that people have their tech stack and they have no idea what they have. And so actually, here's a really great example. I've been Stu McLaren is in the middle, right? We're recording this at the end of April, beginning of May. And this is when Stu does his like workshops and his webinars leading up to
Yep.
opening the cart for Tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was on one of his workshops, and he was like, what kind of subscriptions and memberships are you a part of? Netflix, Amazon, and everyone was typing out. And then he was like, I'm going to let you all guess how many memberships, me, the membership expert, I'm being Stu here, me, the membership expert, how many memberships do you think we use in our business right now? And everyone was guessing, some people were like 20, some people said 200, it was all over the board. He said he had someone in his team count, like go to his banking statement and count everything. They were paying for over 150 things per month to make their business run.
Right. Yep.
And that's insane. I mean, like I'm a solopreneur. I think you're a solopreneur too. We buy what we need to make our lives easier so we can make other people's lives easier. But 150 subscriptions.
That's crazy.
And
you need to make sure you have a spreadsheet to manage all that. Yep.
Yes. So to your point, you probably your tech stack is probably so out of control for your business. And I'm talking to you, people watching this, that you probably don't even know what you have, what you're paying for, how much you're paying for it, and the value that it provides to you. And I'm not saying you should go and write it all down and cancel half of it. I'm just saying, like make educated decisions and maybe replace and improve.
Yeah. Or at least even just document it. Make sure that or who knows it. So, because one of the problems I have when I'm doing work for clients is there's long delays with getting information from clients about their systems, because it's they think it's one thing and they send me the details and I go, no, it's actually not that, and then I actually have to handhold them through it. So, and one of the other things I've done is rescue people when they've had like outages or big problems, or their website gets hacked, or those sort of things, which isn't as I said, it's not a service I do, but I have helped friends and colleagues out with some of that stuff.
Like Jake crying and calling you in the middle.
Yeah, or when they've got no one else, I've got the background to be able to do it, even though that's not a service I provide. So it can be really eye-opening as to how they don't know, whether they've got backups. They don't know where things are hosted. They think something's here. Someone else actually has ownership of their domain. All those sort of things. You want to get a handle on your tech stack, and that makes life a lot easier when you are engaging with other people that are trying to help you to scale and grow your business, because that's what I want to do. I want to help you scale and grow your business. I don't want to help you just fix a problem. I don't want to replace the dirty spark plugs. I want to upgrade the engine and make it self-driving, and
And it's hard when you're like, so where's your website hosted? And they're like, what does that mean? And that's not their fault.
Where do we plug the power into your car? It's like plug.
Right.
I thought it was a petrol car.
Some famous chef isn't going to know, like, where's my website hosted? I'm not saying that like people watching this, you're not stupid for not knowing these things.
But it's a classic thing for small business owners. Yep. And it comes down to the E-Myth thing. And if you haven't read the E-Myth, that's another Michael Gerber's E-Myth. It's a brilliant book about how different hats you have to put on to run a business, and you have to become an expert at other things. Even if you're not very good at them or you don't like them, you either have to become good at them or you have to find someone that can help you with them. And that's how you grow your business. That's how you make a business bigger than yourself, is by understanding those things. So
and to this point, like we're talking very passionately about small businesses, right?
Yep.
And small business ownership is very, very hard, and it's hard to scale and grow because you're so passionate and you're so spread thin, speaking of the E-Myth, and there is a lot to do. So documenting it, making spreadsheets, and delegating the right things at the right time. And that's, why I talk very passionately about the customer journey, and bringing in the right people to plug the right holes, so things just go from A to Z and you don't have to stress, because we're close up to our stuff every day, and it's so stressful, and it's so like this is my business right now. It's crazy,
and it's hard to resist the temptation to reinvent the wheel all the time and figure it out for yourself when other people have already worked it out for you. So, or can, help you do that. So yeah.
Yeah. So if someone needed to reach or any of those pieces or call you crying in the middle of the night in America, hashtag in the afternoon in Australia, how can people reach you?
Meppy.com.
You have a little Meppy thing in the bottom of in the background.
There's Meppy.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
No,
Meppy.
how do I do this with my finger? I'm not very good at this.
Yeah, that's good.
MEPPY or MEPPY.
Meppy.com.
Meppy.com.
Automate all
Yep.
the things.
Or you can just email help@meppy.com and I'll get that. It goes to the help desk, but I run the help desk. So
The help desk is me.
the help desk is me. Yeah.
We're all like laughing and crying right now. We're like, the help desk is me.
No, that's right. I manage it quite well. I have automation, so
Yeah, you're doing great.
Although that typical trap you fall into of automating your client stuff way better than you do yourself, but
well, that's another conversation for another day.
For another day.
I might just have to interview you again, like once every week or two.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always been told you talk too much. So
Seriously, I thought you were an introvert or.
No, I'm an introverted extrovert. So I think I'm an extrovert at heart. So I recharge by being around people, but I can fall into that introvert of just being in front of the computer and.
Maybe I'm like secretly an introvert and no one knows it. I don't know.
Maybe you are. I don't think so.
I don't know. Okay, well, we can chat about that in a second. But everyone, I hope you enjoyed Mark as I do. He's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.